Harry Anderson, well, he sits out the European Tour anyway.
But it will be interesting to see how Bunting is here, and he was clearly suffering last weekend in Sindelfingen, and he wasn't in the best of health in Graz either a few weeks ago.
And Michael Smith also, you said about his commitment, I say about his honour as well, his approach to the game when he decided to turn up in Aberdeen and play. He said that it wouldn't be fair on anybody else.
Michael, who threw first.
I handed a 7-0 win to Raymond van Barneveld.
Yeah, that's respecting the integrity of the competition as well, so it's all round a good display by Michael Smith. They'll be looking for a good display here as well,
81.
as he kicks off with 81. Michael Smith, a man who played in the inaugural event of the Dutch Darts Masters in 2012. He was 22 years old at the time. He lost to Alan Sabin in the first round of that one. He's played in each of the last 3 editions as well. Made the semi-finals last year. That's the best performance he's put in this tournament.
60.
But Stephen Bunting, a man who once again seems to be showing signs of life, isn't he, Chris? With 3 quarter-finals and a semi-final in his last 7 Players' Championship events, and showing signs of life here as well with a 180.
Yeah, he was disappointed last weekend against Kirk Shepherd, so he'll be determined to kind of put that right. That's the beauty of this time of year. They're playing darts every weekend, and there's always another match around the corner.
Yeah, you don't have too long to dwell on any defeats, so you don't have too long to bask in the glory of any victories and title successes, because the tournaments do come thick and fast, especially at this time of year, and Stephen Bunting is motoring in this opening leg here.
Yeah, he's bedded 6 consecutive trebles, big ones 2.
103.
Leave himself 103. There's a 7th. Well, he's ended that leg with 9 perfect darts.
Stephen Bunting.
180, 177, 103 out.
Game on.
And the signs are already ominous for Michael Smith, who hasn't beaten Stephen Bunting since September 2014, when Bunting moved over to the PDC. The Bully Boy won the first 2 games, but the following 5 went the way of Bunting, including some important ones too. Wins at the World Championship, UK Open, 2 on the European Tour, and the most recent at the European Championship in 2016.
And he's won 7 out of 8 legs this weekend as well. He was a 6-1 winner yesterday against Tobias Muller in his opening. Has the first leg on the board here as well.
57.
But I think that recent form on the Pro Tour is really, well, I think it's coming to the fore here actually, irrespective of what happened last weekend in Sindelfingen. I think looking at the bigger picture, he's clearly 60. A much more confident player at this moment in time. He seems to be in a better place. Just looking at his social media activity, he seems to be happy with the way things are going.
Stevie require 161.
Yeah, much happier in himself. He's picked up a couple of PDC titles. One of those was very, very early after switching across from the BDO, when he was kind of on the crest of a wave, Stephen Bunting.
65.
Went deep into major tournaments very quickly after switching across. Beat Michael van Gerwen in the final of another.
120.
And he's made a superb start here.
Stephen, you're
96 to double his lead.
Lovely first start, lovely second dart as well. A 103 checkout, a 96 checkout, a 2-0 lead, and Stephen Bunting sitting very pretty at this moment in time.
134.
You've got to wonder how much pressure Michael Smith is putting himself under, because it's a kind of, if he loses this match, he must leave here thinking, why did I bother to turn up?
137.
And by the same token, it'd be equally frustrating for him to have a deep run in this tournament and then lose in the final or the semi-finals as well and come so close.
97.
There is no ideal solution here for Michael Smith, I suppose, because it will take something out of him, whatever he does, ahead of Thursday night. I think he'll be looking forward to making sure he gets home without too much hassle and has a couple of days of rest, although he will have to satisfy some media commitments prior to the O2 showdown on Thursday. Finished second in the table, Michael Smith in the Premier League, more than justifying the decision to select him.
An example to anyone, and a myth buster, that a bad experience in the Premier League is a career-ending thing.
Yeah.
The way that Michael Smith has bounced back. He's had a couple of bounce outs already in this match.
Well, you mentioned career ending. It wasn't that long ago that Bunting I think it was during the European match play in Hamburg last year, he revealed during one of his interviews that he'd considered his future at one point in time during a very tough period. But in that European match play, he reached the quarter-finals.
65. Stephen, you
bullseye missed by the bully boy. And Bunting, if he can find double top, is halfway to giving Michael Smith a hiding here at the Dutch Darts Masters and a 6th consecutive win.
Stephen to throw first. Game on.
And you can just see Michael Smith there trying to loosen himself up.
140.
Mentioned that Bunting has been showing signs of life. Well, this is so far superseding anything we've seen for some time from Stephen Bunting. He's had a spluttering of ton-plus averages on the Players' Championship circuit this year. 105.5 the best, but look at that. 115 he's touching there.
It's all going very well indeed, but then again we said the same thing earlier on this evening about Simon Whitlock. We were talking about world records at one point with his match against Jan Dekker as far as averages are concerned. That'll do Michael Smith's average the world of good. Needs to get going pretty sharpish here, Michael Smith. Otherwise this one could well run away from him. Winner of this one to face either Jelle Klassen or Christoph Ratajski, who meet in the 6th match, or the 5th match I should say, of the evening session.
Taking a really interesting shape this tournament. We'll talk about that more as the evening goes on. Bunting is going to get a dart at the bullseye. And he's hit the bullseye. Brilliant stuff from Stephen Bunting. And for some reason, he absolutely loves playing Michael Smith.
There is a lot to be said for this.
100.
People sometimes ignore head-to-head records and say it doesn't really matter, it's a totally independent event, but I think when you've got a hold over someone, you have to pay attention to those sorts of stats.
I think it depends as well on the mentality of the individual player. Perhaps more so the player that keeps getting beaten by the same opponent. Whether that's something that's in his head, whether he can use it as an extra motivation or whether it's kind of a fear factor. But yeah, you look at the draw, the bottom section of the draw, we're going to see matches between Mensah Suljovic and Simon Whitlock. One of those pair will be in the quarters as perhaps expected. But then Steve Lennon against James Richardson will take on the winner of that. We've got Jermaine Watermaner and Kim Huybrechts who are battling it out for a place in the quarterfinals. Neither of those two players have been that deep. Watermaner for the first time in the final day just last week, so he's looking to continue a run. You've got 2 unseeded players in the top half of the draw, Cameron Menzies and Kyle Anderson going head-to-head, and it's looking like the number 4 seed is about to be knocked out here, because Stephen Bunting
99
could be a few moments away from moving within a leg.
And I think there are 1 or 2 other seeded players who are in action tonight that might well be feeling a little bit anxious as well. There are some potential further scalps to come. Bunting looking at 25 here for a 5-0 lead, 8-8. And the way he's been finishing,
the 5th leg, Stephen Bunting.
And there's another example of it. You wouldn't put it past him, and he does lead 5-0. And
game on.
Well, we go back to the question about Michael Smith's decision to come out here in the first place. Like we say, it's a very honourable thing to do.
Yeah. Well, 5 legs won there for Stephen Bunting, all in 5 visits or fewer. This is sensational stuff from Stephen Bunting.
91.
And you do have to feel for Michael Smith because he's battled on, he's soldiered on. But Stephen Bunting, this is fantastic to see.
140.
The bullet firing on all cylinders.
$60.
Look at that. Look at those numbers. Over 120 with the first 9, 114 and change his match average.
60.
And Michael Smith, the number 4 seed, the Premier League semi-finalist, quite simply no match for Stephen Bunting 79. In this one.
And he's had 3 14 dart legs, 2 12 dart legs, has Stephen Bunting tonight so far. And he's in the red stuff once again here.
140.
And he's down to a finish of 64, and Smith is languishing on 271. And this one looks to be
96.
Very, very imminent indeed.
Well, he's only missed 2 darts at double. He's never had to come back for a 6th turn. If that trend continues,
32.
It's all over. Well, he's got that 6 turn in hand anyway, because Michael Smith can't go out.
Well, it could be a 16 dart leg for him, and that would be his worst leg of the
95. Stephen,
match
you
so
require
far, or
32.
worst leg of the match if he finishes it off. But Stephen Bunting still hasn't got the job done. Still hasn't got the job done. It's all falling apart at the seams here for Stephen Bunting.
Shocking, Stephen.
Well, if Smith gets this...
60.
Right.
Stephen, you require
Now,
8.
can he put his friend out of his misery here? Yes, he can. Top corner, top notch from Stephen Bunting. An absolutely brilliant performance. There you see, the last leg has made the average decrease significantly, but it is still over 106. That was absolutely spellbinding stuff from Stephen Bunting. He knocks out Michael Smith 6-0. The number 4 seed departs. We're going to see the number 2 seed next. Peter Snakebite right up against a lethal biscuit, James Wilson. But Stephen Bunting was in absolutely lethal form himself there, and we are going to hear from the Bullet talking to Dan.
Stephen, congratulations. I know it took you a little while to get over the line in the final leg, but you were averaging in the 110s for the vast majority of that game. That's got to be right up there with your best performances on big stages in the PDC.
Probably my best. I said to you yesterday that I believe I'm playing better than I've ever played in my life, and when you're playing in front of a crowd like this, how can you not try and play your best? And listen, it took me a long time to get back to where I feel like I'm comfortable and playing in front of amazing crowds, where I want to be. I'm still a long way from where I want to be, but I'd like to thank each and every one of you tonight for coming out supporting me, and long may it continue, and let's look forward to tomorrow.
Tomorrow into the last 16, and we've seen you go deep in Euro Tours before, but winning a big stage title in the PDC, that's something that's eluded you so far. That's got to be the next target, hasn't it? One of these Euro Tours.
Of course it has, and you know, when I first come to the PDC, I was on a crest of a wave. I was a world champion. I was doing really well in a few of the major tournaments as well. And the last couple of years, it's not gone to plan. I've had to really divert to basics, put a lot of practice in, put a lot of work in, and I actually believe now that I'm playing better than I've ever played in my life. That probably is. I didn't feel that good backstage, I'll be honest with you. That's a Tony Bellew, that. But honestly, I'm a bit gobsmacked at how I've just played. I can't believe it.
I think everybody was gobsmacked. Superb display. The Bullet, Stephen Bunting, through to the 3rd round. Coming up in a few moments.